All right, folks, welcome in. This is Yankees Unloaded. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr., and we are doing this show right after the Yankees won 4-3 in extra innings. So, extra inning win, Gary, first off, rarity. Second, everyone has their pinstripe moment eventually. And while Jazz Chisholm had like 8 home runs in the span of like 10 days, and that could be considered a moment of time, this was his moment. It doesn't matter that, Bobby Witt Jr. made a hell of an effort to even get that thing close at the plate. But make no mistake about it, this was his moment. This is a walk-off hit. It goes in the books as such. And he has every reason to feel good about it. And, I sent you the quote, "Oh, this is sick. It ain't even October yet. Can't wait." So he's like ready. And I'm really...
This is what we try to sell people, isn't it? Like, come do
Yeah.
this in the pinstripes. I mean, that's the cool part. And so much for being a clubhouse cancer, right? Remember that story that they tried to sell us on? Just such a stupid story. As if being a clubhouse cancer for the Miami Marlins means a damn thing.
Nothing. You see his face. You see his smile. You think that guy's pissing anybody off? Yeah, he's pissing off the other team. He's not pissing off anybody in his clubhouse. Everyone likes him. And the Yankees love the guy. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with what Chisholm has done and what he's going to do, because I think he's going to have a big October. And Chisholm, I've always said, since he joined the Yankees, I've been saying, like, look, this guy is best in high leverage. That's gonna translate. That'll play, in the words of Gary. So I think it's gonna play a lot in October. And you know what else is gonna play a lot in October? Juan Soto, because Juan Soto is somebody that's had a lot of October success. Obviously helped win a World Series. Soto today took, was it off the shin, off the ankle? He fouls one off, and he looks like he's out for the year. Like, when he went down, I was like, oh my God, did he like break something? Then the next pitch, boom, just a rocket ship. And you're like...
It was unexpected, right?
Yeah.
I had 5 or 6 people texting me right after that foul ball. Actually, they were just like, Soto needs a day. Hey, Soto needs a day. Very Aaron Boone-like, very unlike a lot of my friends. But when you were watching Juan Soto, it seemed like he was going through something, right? Maybe he was a little burnt out. Maybe he got into some bad habits offensively. I know you mentioned that Soto hit a lot of home runs. Maybe he caught himself trying to hit more, right? And he didn't look like himself. His numbers haven't been atrocious, but his batting average just started to creep into the 280s. So that's not the Juan Soto that we're going to be paying for this offseason. It's not the Juan Soto we expect to see in October. So we were all dumbfounded by what we were seeing. And then all of a sudden, he just flipped the game on its head, just changed the game completely. So that's obviously something that players with the talent of Juan Soto and Aaron Judge can do at any moment's notice. This is why you play these guys every day, because a lot of times when you're trying to give them a day, that day that you gave them, they can't do something like this now, right? This was a loss without Juan Soto. So that's where I'm at with this. I feel like I'm just happy. You see a foul ball off someone's ankle. Yankees of the past probably would have pulled him off the field and said, we're going to be careful and pretend that this is a game in May, like it's not September 11th, right? So that's it was good to see that. And then, of course, the energy of Jazz Chisholm. That's the story here. Doing something when it matters. That's why we're all here. That's why everybody's listening to this podcast. We're trying to figure out and try to dissect what's different about this year that may turn into winning when it actually means a damn, right? That's the conversation. Because if I told everybody who was listening to this show, I know the future. I know that the Yankees are going to have a great September, but they're going to fall short in the ALDS. They're going to get swept, right? If everybody knew that was the future, well, it would be pretty miserable in our comment section. We would be miserable because we're doing this podcast in hopes that we're seeing something different. We're trying to look at the trends. We're trying to look at style of play. We're trying to look at our pitching, starting pitching, relievers, closers, and trying to differentiate, is this team different than the teams we've seen over the years? Or is this a team that's going to go out, maybe edge the Baltimore Orioles like they've done in the past with other teams, and then fall short in the ALCS and go down without a whimper. Is that going to happen again, or is this different? Jazz Chisholm's a player that does look different for the Yankees. He's a player that's playing a different style of baseball. He's not just trying to hit home runs. He's the type of guy with 2 outs, nobody on. He can hit an infield single, right? Beat out a ground ball, still second and third, and then take off on a pass ball. The Yankees don't play that type of baseball. You saw with Dominguez yesterday, and then you see it with Chisholm today. I mean, how can you not enjoy watching him?
No, absolutely. I mean, that's how I feel, right? I just think Jazz Chisholm embodies New York. I think he embodies the stardom. He's like a combination, because he has that like Robinson Cano swing, and he plays kind of similar to Cano. He's way more of he hustles, obviously, but he kind of reminds me of Cano. He's got like that swagger about him. But then he has kind of those little things that like bits and pieces of an A-Rod, of a Soriano, of a Jeter, and I really very similar to like a Curtis Granderson, I would say. And so when you bring all those guys to the table, and I'm not saying he's every bit of them. He's not like the most unstoppable player ever where he's going to hit 58 home runs.
He's half Alex Rodriguez, half Hideki Matsui. No, guys, relax. It's not what he's saying. He's saying that you're taking bits and pieces of what they do with their style. And that I completely agree. Sometimes you watch Robinson Cano and he's the type of guy who's relying on instincts. And you see him at third base with Chisholm. Jazz Chisholm doesn't have a ton of reps at third base. He just doesn't.
No.
But you watch him today, you wouldn't have known that. That's just an athlete right there.
Absolutely. And, I think he's just kind of you know what Jazz Chisholm is? He's the embodiment of what it means to be a kid and idolize players and then put that, idolization, if you will, of a player. That's not even a word, but whatever, into your game. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, like, for me, I always liked Albert Pujols for whatever reason. I mean, A-Rod was, one of my favorite players, probably my favorite. But I always liked Albert Pujols' batting stance. So I always try to emulate that. But I didn't have, like, his game. I didn't have his home run ability. I was a guy, I'll hit it into, the gap, and I'll either get to second, or if I don't, I'm stealing second and third. And I stole bases, and that's what I did. Like, I could hit it hard, but not very far, So I wasn't Albert Pujols, but I feel like when it comes to Jazz Chisholm, you can see he's always said like, yeah, I remember growing up and watching Jeter and Alex. And it's like, you can see that he grew up watching Jeter and Alex because there's something embedded into him that embodies kind of that 2009 Yankees team. And I don't know what it is, but I feel like every time he's in the lineup, I feel like good things can come of it. And, even when he has a bad day, just know, like, if he gets a walk, he's getting on base, he's going to create havoc. Just his presence there. He's like a pass rusher in the NFL. You might double team him, but now that you've double teamed him, you've turned your attention to him where other guys can do things. And when Jazz is on the base paths, it can get in a pitcher's head. It can get in a catcher's head. It can get in the first baseman's head because the first baseman who's holding him on, he's got to get back into his spot. I think a lot of people kind of forget that. So, it can kind of throw everybody off. And I really think when you have a guy like Jazz Chisholm who's already threatening, and then you bring him Giancarlo Stanton, so he's at the plate when you have a guy like that, same thing could be said about Austin Wells, like, whatever. I think that's what really allows him to excel. And if Jazz ever lost his speed, I still think he'd hit home runs and that'd be fine. But his speed is what makes him more than just a cookie cutter 30 home run hitter, and what turns him into a multi-dimensional player that can literally break open a game. And he's made for October in that sense.
Yeah. You know what's weird about him? I was just thinking about what he does and what he's good at while you were talking. I was trying to figure out this player in Jazz Chisholm, and it really hit me. I don't really know how to game plan for this player. I don't really know what Jazz Chisholm's necessarily excellent at. I really don't. He's not a type of guy who's going to be like Arias in San Diego and hit 325. He's not a player who's going to go into a series and hit 6 homers, more than likely in the postseason, right? The way we've seen Giancarlo do, the way we're hoping Judge does, or a Soto. He's not that type of guy. He's just the type of player. It's almost like he's looking around the field and saying, what does this game need? Right? What does this moment need? And I don't want to overreact to today's like walk-off hit or anything like that.
Yeah.
Look at his games in the past with pinstripes. You're looking at a game and you say, okay, the Yankees can't get on base. The Yankees are striking out a lot. Nobody's anywhere near first base. Jazz Chisholm all of a sudden will look around and say, this is very clearly what we need. We need to reach first base. He'll drop down a bunt, right? But then all of a sudden you'll watch Soto hitting homers, Judge hitting homers, and then he'll say, okay, maybe you don't necessarily need me to play that style of baseball. He can go yard too. It's almost like he's looking at what these other guys are doing well on that given day, and then he just does whatever the team. Yeah, he just kind of adapts, right? And isn't this what we were asking for? Maybe not necessarily another star that's going to cost the Yankees $30 or $40 million a year. Maybe the Yankees needed more players who can adapt as the game goes on. Maybe you see a player like Reagan's on the mound and you say, okay, he's got command of this game, right? But if Chisholm knows the way that this game's being played, he understands very early on, I've got to make my way to first base. I've got to get myself in scoring position because this game may be 4-3, right? 2-1, 2-0 in the 9th inning. The margins are going to be slim and we're playing that style of baseball. The Yankees in years past, you know what it really was, Jake? It was, okay, guys, everyone's striking out. No one's hitting any home runs. You get up to the next hitter and that guy's going, they may have failed to hit a home run, but now I'm going to try and do it.
Every time. Like
every single time. It's what you watched. Right. So if that's what I'm watching, is that a recipe for success? Is that a style of baseball that's won us anything? I can tell you guys firsthand, I feel like I know just as much as anybody else. I don't really need to consult anybody. The Yankees haven't won in 14 years, in large part because in October, they're all trying to do the same thing. Jazz Chisholm's not trying to play the same baseball as Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge may go 1 for 3 and hit a ball 500 feet. Jazz Chisholm's going up to the plate. He's trying to put a stamp on the game and change it the best way he knows how. That may be dropping down a bunt. He doesn't care how he does it. And that's something. That sentence right there, he does not care how he changes the game. He just wants to change the game, right? Yeah. That's something that maybe 2 or 3 Yankees the past decade can say. And that's why Jazz Chisholm's not, in my opinion, he's not this great player in Major League Baseball. I think if he was a free agent, I don't think he would command anything close to a $150 to $200 million deal. I really don't. I just think he's the type of player on this team, given what's around him, he's going to do the dirty work and the ugly stuff that maybe he gets the credit in October, maybe he doesn't, but he's absolutely going to be part of the solution, and that's a good thing.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, I definitely see like star power with him for sure. I mean, this is, somebody that's hitting 298 for the Yankees, over 900 OPS, and now a decent sample size. I mean, at this point, we're talking he's had 32 games with the Yankees. So
he's been a star so far, which is awesome.
So, I mean, that was my prediction, Yeah. It's been a little bit since he's hit a home run. He has 9 with the Yankees. He's got 22 on the year. He was going to hit 30 if he didn't get hurt, I think. But, he's slowed down a little bit. But I do think he has got that 30 home run potential. But I think the thing that is more important is how long does he keep playing his game? And the reason I say that is because you look at John Birdie, and, he's getting up there in age. But John Birdie plays his style of baseball. He's had injury issues in the past, and we talked about that when they first got him. But John Birdie, make no mistake about it, you could put him in as a pinch runner, and he's going to walk off the game in a sense. Because I'll tell you right now, I told you off air, when it comes to like Gleyber Torres, love Gleyber. Gleyber's not scoring that run. He's not. And he's not
scoring that run on a scooter.
No, he's not. I don't think he's sent home. You know what I mean? I think they know that he's not scoring that run. You're only sending home a guy like Birdie, so I got to give Boone credit for having Birdie in there. You're sending home Jazz. You're sending home Volpe. And after today, I don't know if I want to send home Volpe anymore. That was traumatizing. I thought he was out again, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Do you know what I just read actually? Because I was just going to ask you the question because I know we were going to discuss the lineup and kind of the way that this lineup was constructed.
Yeah.
And you didn't see against a really good left-hander in Reagan's for Kansas City, you didn't see that right-handed bat that John Birdie may have provided in left field, right? And that was the question when this game started. Okay, we've got a switch hitting superstar prospect in Jason Dominguez. Didn't play, right? Very interesting. But
very interesting.
Very interesting.
Frustrating.
John Birdie, right? Right-handed bat, can play left field, can play anywhere in the infield. Didn't play. Obviously came off the bench in a pinch running situation and made an impact. And that's awesome. But everybody was wondering, where are these right-handed bats? And Aaron Boone did provide an explanation after the game. And I'll paraphrase it. He essentially said that Reagan's has reverse splits. Players throughout the season have been hitting decently well, a lot better left-handed against Reagan's as opposed to right-handed. And I'm assuming that's because of his changeup. Is obviously is a dynamic changeup. He's got the overhand knuckle curve, a nasty fastball, right? So I don't know if that's an unacceptable answer to me. I'm not really overreacting to it because based on what Brian Cashman did say, and this was days ago actually, is that Jason Dominguez is a player that they don't necessarily perceive as a switch hitter right now. They don't think that as of now, he's a polished enough hitter as a right-handed bat to warrant playing every day, which is interesting because when they told us that they were going to be calling him up, that he would be playing every day. So they almost kind of went against what they were saying in that development. Because I can tell you right now, Jake, the best way to develop a player is not to sit him down against left-handed pitching and then tell us that, well, he's just not good at this. Okay. If this was the case, I guess they should have had him hitting lefty in the minor leagues all year against anybody. So I guess where I'm at with this lineup, it makes sense now that that's the answer. Now that I understand that Reagan's doesn't necessarily pitch as well against lefties, well, maybe that was the criteria for why Alex Verdugo was in there. Now, that bat, despite those numbers against everybody else, you're still throwing Alex Verdugo in the lineup. I want people to understand this, okay? Alex Verdugo, just because he's a lefty, doesn't mean it's the right decision. And I think that needs to be said. It needs to be brought up on this podcast, is that just because the splits say something, and Jake, I know you hate splits. You hate it.
Well, I love splits. I hate platoon splits. I think the lefty-righty shit is so overplayed.
Yes. So to your point, when somebody is really, really good, dynamic against right-handed bats as a lefty pitcher, but they're not as great against lefty hitters, well, you're kind of psyching yourself out by just going into the trap of splits and throwing a bunch of lefties out there, regardless of what their pedigree is. Alex Verdugo is a significant drop-off, in my opinion, at the plate in comparison to Jason Dominguez and what he potentially can provide. I understand he hasn't hit great as a right-handed bat, but do I really want to put Jason Dominguez on the bench so that I can see what Alex Verdugo does against Reagan's? Personally, I didn't wish to see that, but obviously that was the thought process.
No, I get that. I mean, yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, I'll just say this. Jason Dominguez, whatever you want to do that, but what we talked about off air, and this is truly how I feel, Jason Dominguez doesn't have enough, in my opinion, enough at bats remaining before now in the postseason for me to feel like he's truly revved up. I think they waited way too long, truthfully. So with that said, no, he should not miss any games. He should be in every single game, because I'll tell you right now, he needs to look at this as this is a tryout for the postseason roster. He needs to look at this as if he's not on the postseason roster and he's trying to work his way on there. That's how I would look at it. How many games do we have left? 16. He should play every single game, period. You only have 16 games to get this guy ready when, I mean, he has a batting average below 100 in 3 games. You know, it's like we got to get him going. And it's like, how do you get going when you sit and you get cold on the bench? Because guess what? When he's doing that, he's not in AAA raking. He's just getting cold on the bench. So
he's just chewing sunflower seeds. He's not playing. So I agree.
It bothers me. And then what also bothers me is the whole Austin Wells rhetoric. How, he can't play every day. listen, why did this become the exclusive he can't play every day to catcher? Put him at DH. What about Stanton? I like Stanton, but Stanton, who we have literally never called out since the beginning of the year. Well, because the beginning of the year, we were starting to talk about maybe he should be DFA'd and all that.
Which everybody was.
Yeah. But he's now hitting 230. His on-base percentage all of a sudden is 290. So he has not played well lately. Behind a lot of different players, Verdugo gets a lot of flack from us just in general. Mm-hmm. Rizzo has not played well recently. So there are guys in Volpe we called out. Stanton's kind of just gotten away with a lot of, no one's really thrown him under the bus as of late because the home runs. If Stanton hits home runs, then we take 230 batting average.
Oh, absolutely.
But Stanton's hitting 138 in September. Make no mistake about it. He hit 224 in August. He hit 304 in June. But, I mean, really, he hasn't been hitting all that well as of late. The thing is, he's hit 7 home runs in August and September as kind of this every other day player. Although lately he's become more of an everyday player.
Right.
If I have to take Stanton out of the DH role so I can give Austin Wells a shot, and I don't want to give him a full day at catcher, I'm doing it. He's more of a run producer. I understand he's not as damaging as Stanton because the power there, but I don't really think it's remotely close, Gary. I think you get a guy that has a way better on base percentage, more than likely is going to get on base. And Stanton, I mean, when he's not hitting, he's not hitting. So that's how I see it, is that, it shouldn't just be exclusive. Oh, we're giving Wells a day. Well, also, you're kind of nullifying the day because notice Wells always pinch hits on his days off. Why even bother with these days off?
I don't know.
I don't get it. I
thought they just told me that left-handed hitters hit better against Reagans. Isn't that what they told me? Well,
and also, and this is where I can kind of stab a hole in that whole idea of like, oh, yeah. No. Austin Wells has barely gone against left-handed pitching. And you could say, well, that's why he's ahead of Trevino, because Trevino's seen more lefties. Maybe that's the case, but I look at it as there's not any analytics you have out there that are clearly, or at least you're not following them to tell an actual story here. Austin Wells have very limited reps against left-handed pitching. And, I also think the thing that's overblown here, because splits actually, I don't hate the idea of using, platoon splits. But what I hate is how it's become, oh, it's a lefty, it's a righty. Come on. You're a professional manager. How are we going to literally bring it down to a lefty and a righty? Do you know how generalized that is? No. Here's the thing, okay? Austin Wells has 9 games started against left-handed starting pitchers, right? That's the split I care about when you're deciding the lineup based on the starter, right? He has a 256 batting average. He hits better, obviously only 9 games to 76. As a starter, he hits better against left-handed starters.
Yeah, if he was 1 for 40. Yes, if he was 1 for 35.
Yeah,
he's
10,
I could see.
He's 10 in 52 plate appearances. He has 10 hits.
Yeah, but they've also told us that doesn't matter. They've told us that doesn't matter. Aaron Boone has explained this. He said, we do not decide who catches based on if it's a righty or a lefty pitching. It's exactly what Aaron Boone said.
Well, he literally
said this is not a platoon.
Said it today. He said it today. That's why.
Right. So if that's the case, all of a sudden a lefty was pitching, he pinch hits Austin Wells, right? Yeah. So again, if we're going based on what Aaron Boone said as to why there were lefties in the lineup today, right? And I think that answer was completely valid. But if it's valid, why was Giancarlo Stanton hitting today against a guy that lefties? Okay, Reagans gets righties out. So why was Stanton in there instead of Wells at DH? It just did not make sense. So you periodically used your logic, and then in other instances, you just said we gave that guy a day just for rest purposes. That makes no sense at all. He's a 25-year-old kid. He can play. So if that's the case, and we know it is, but you pinch hit him. So if he can pinch hit, I promise you he could have taken 3 more at-bats today. I promise you.
Well, here's Trevino, by the way, against left-handed. By the way, he's better against righties. Like way
Not
better.
Not good against either, but
no,
he's
actually good against righties. He has a 275 batting average. Like,
well, I mean, even if that's the case, I don't play him ever.
No, I know, but he's got a 724 OPS, a 275 batting average. If the roles were reversed and that was his, like, say that was him against lefties, totally fine. Would never say anything, right?
Yes.
Well, against lefty starters, he has a 172 batting average, a 284 on base percentage. Like, what are we doing? So, I mean, I don't want to complain too much. I'm glad they got the win. I really am.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the lineup annoyed the shit out of me because it just felt very disingenuous to the mission. What is the mission? You roll out that Thanos lineup yesterday that just has everything, right? Gets people so excited for the postseason. It doesn't go well. Look, that's baseball, right? Sometimes things don't go well. Throw it out again. Use it again. But no, we go with this. And they won, but they didn't win because of that lineup. Let's be honest here. They did not win because of that lineup. And Austin Wells, if he didn't pinch hit, I mean, who knows if they even win the game? Because, you know, people are complaining, oh, he didn't get a hold of one, and he didn't hit the home run, or he didn't have a double. All he needed to do was get that run in. That's all he needed to do. I didn't need him to do anything crazy. As far as I'm concerned, mission accomplished. Gets Volpe in. It's a 3-3 ball game. Allows Jazz to win it in the next inning. So that's how I look at it. I'm like really over the platoon splits because it's only used from a generalized point of righty lefty instead of a right-handed starter and a left-handed starter. And to me, that's all that matters, because if I'm basing my lineup, I'm basing it on the starter. Why am I not using analytics that coincide with a starter? I don't understand why you would use generalized analytics at that point.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on with our lineup. Too many moving parts.
There's a lot of, I guess, contradiction when it comes to Aaron Boone. I mean, he contradicts himself a lot. So I have a few stats I want to throw out there that I found on Twitter by New York Yankees Stats. Who else?
Okay.
At New York Yankees Stats. First one, Jazz Chisholm Jr. with his first career walk-off hit. So that's cool. The second one, MLB 3 seasons with 30-plus home runs, 100-plus RBIs, and 100-plus walks, age 25 or younger. There's only 2 guys, Ted Williams, Juan Soto. And then the last one I want to throw out here that I thought was really cool is Luis Gil has allowed 1 run or fewer in 16 starts this season. That's the most in the MLB, tied with Russ Ford in 1910 by a Yankee rookie in a season. That's crazy.
I don't know what to think about Luis Gil. You know what's so interesting about this pitcher is that, would it really surprise me if I told you guys he's going to go out there and he's going to be dynamic in the postseason, get us to a World Series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just be incredible. And then I could also, at the same, like on another flip of the coin, Luis Gil can go out and throw 16 straight balls and be pulled from the mound. No one has a clue about this kid. No one's got a clue. One day they talk about, oh yeah, on the Yes broadcast, he's featuring this slider, right? And he's got a dynamic slider. He's locating it all day. And there's a reason clearly he's featuring it. Then all of a sudden, we'll see him throw 12 straight balls. He'll walk 5. And then the broadcast will simultaneously say, why isn't this guy learning to command his fastball? Why isn't he featuring the most important pitch in baseball? This pitcher is interesting as it gets. You don't have a clue what you're getting. We can have him go out there next start. He can walk 6 guys, strike out 7, and he'll get a no decision. And then we'll go into a wild card or a division game, and he'll just dominate. So I don't know. Obviously, there's very little consistency with Luis Gil. Maybe that's due to fatigue. I probably would assume it is, Jake. I would say that fatigue is becoming not a problem, but just something that, remember we talked about that injury that he had? Maybe this will help him, gets him refreshed, gets him going again. Well,
135 innings. I mean,
Right.
that's insane as a
Right. So
rookie.
here we are, right? Luis Gil looks like a different pitcher. We have to have it. I don't know if I'm going to predict that it's going to be there at the end of September and in like through an October run. I don't know what we're getting. I have no idea. But if we get this version of Luis Gil, we do have a chance, right? Because you can throw out Rodon. Garrett Cole and Luis Gil is a really good 1-2 punch. And it's a lot better than a lot of other teams can throw out there. And as well as, by the way, Jake, you know the best part about today? The entire day
What's
was
that?
that Keegan Aiken, right? Do you know who that is?
No.
You shouldn't. Okay. This is the guy who was closing the game for the Baltimore Orioles today against Boston and blew the hell out of the game. Okay. So when people tell you, oh, the Yankees, they can win a game like this against a competitive, like a very competitive Kansas City Royals team, awesome. But what's this team going to do against some of the best teams in baseball? Well, they tell you that the Yankees can't go anywhere because of our back end of our bullpen. Did you know who Keegan Aiken was before today, before me mentioning it? No, you didn't.
Absolutely
Right?
not.
Now, some people maybe did, but you mean to tell me that Keegan Aiken, a 29-year-old left-hander,
I just
blew
heard
another
Clay
game?
Aiken.
You heard Clay Aiken. Exactly.
That's all I heard.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're saying, guys. These teams are all flawed. What you should be rooting for is when we do face competitive teams, right? Teams over 500, teams we're going to be seeing in October, the Yankees need to throw a punch. They need to land a punch. Don't tell me about how they project in October. That we'll find out now in September. We're going to see what they look like this month, right? Before the postseason. We're going to see what they look like in October because those games, if you've paid attention to this division, you would know the Yankees and the Orioles want no part of winning this division for whatever reason. No one will separate themselves. They will not go on a win streak, right? And in large part of what their bullpens do, in large part of how their offenses periodically will lay an egg. Well, we're going to find out what the Yankees look like in October baseball in September. You play the Royals, you play Baltimore, you play Boston when Boston's in a wild card hunt. We're in postseason baseball time now. So if you want to judge this team on what they're going to look like when it's cold out, pay attention to them right now. Pay attention to Baltimore. Baltimore's crapping down their leg too. So I'm more excited, I think, than the average Yankees fan. I feel like this Yankees team has a slew of problems, a lot. They have got a lot of problems. They've got makeshift third basemen. We're going to try him over here. Gleyber Torres may or may not give you effort. He is right now. Juan Soto's kind of sliding. Aaron Judge isn't really hitting the way he normally does, right? Luis Gil's a wild card. Garrett Cole, he looks pretty good, right? Clay Holmes is pitching in the 7th inning today instead of the 8th inexplicably. There are so many moving parts. Our top prospect didn't play, right?
Nope.
So much is going wrong or could go wrong. And yet you look across baseball and these teams have just as much going wrong. There's a reason their record isn't better than ours. There's a lot going wrong with over there too. So, Jake, I'm pretty hopeful. I am. I'm not saying we're going to win the World Series. I'm not saying any of that. But when I watch this team, I look across baseball at the most important game today, and that was Baltimore and Boston. And I looked up and said, oh, Baltimore's going to win this game. I didn't know who was going to close for them, right?
Yeah.
And Kimbrel lost his job as the closer. I didn't know who Keegan Aiken was. Okay.
Clay Aiken, but yeah.
Right. I didn't know who that was. And so I just put my head down and said, wow, Baltimore's going to win this game. And we are going to go into extra innings and blow this game just like we usually do. And then it just flipped on its head. So it just reminded me very quickly that there is no great team in baseball. And we've just got to go out and throw the first punch against some really good teams.
No, I agree. I mean, this Boston series is tricky because they've had the Yankees number. They really have.
Yeah.
So you got to come out of the series at least winning 3 of 4.
Oh, that means Garrett Cole's pitching in this series and facing Rafael Devers. Should we sprinkle some Peter Popoff miracle water over Garrett Cole's arm? Because
so
he's going to attack. He's going to attack, I tell you.
Yeah, it's Cortez Schmidt, Cole, and Rodon. So I guess that was short-lived with the double barrel. Yeah, that worked too well, guys. Let's not go back to that.
Okay. Well, I mean, maybe they used it just because of the bullpen was tired. I don't know. Right?
I don't know how you don't keep using it, but Yeah, so Cortez is scheduled to start tomorrow. You guys are watching this the day he's scheduled to start. 7:15 on Fox. Oh, I'll miss Michael K. Um, then Apple TV on Friday. Ugh. I just died a little inside.
I actually don't care about any of these broadcasts. I understand when they're like, oh, I kind of like it when this guy's a part of it and that guy gets a chance. I personally, I just want to have the option to watch
I just
the
want
people
Yes
that
Network.
I want to watch. I feel like I should have the opportunity to do that, but obviously they kind of pimp out the rights and sell it to these different companies.
I get
It has nothing to do with
Amazon
us.
Prime though. Like I get it because they have a deal and Amazon almost owns Yes Network anyway, so it's not a big deal. They just roll with Yes Network. But like Apple TV Plus, like what are we doing?
Concept, they said, how much money are you willing to pay us? We'll give up a couple games. And when you give up those games, you lose the broadcast opportunities and it throws it to somebody else. Well,
It's annoying because it's not like we get to watch Yes Network during the postseason. That would be awesome.
Right. That would be pretty cool.
I think we deserve that as fans. I think we deserve that. But
well, Yes just isn't close to affording it. That's actually the real problem you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. It would be a lot to because you'd be simulcasting to Yes and essentially like Fox or TBS or it wouldn't be. I'm sure they could find a way. I mean, this is what should happen. Michael K should get in the booth during the postseason.
So like have Michael K sign a W-9 as an independent contractor and work for Fox periodically. Okay, Fox, you get the ALCS. Well, get that jabroni off the broadcast and you put Michael K up there and he just gets to stamp a Fox logo over the top of his chest and he just pretends it's Yes Network.
Exactly. Give me these two play-by-play guys and we're good. Michael K and Joe Davis. Done. Those guys are made for the postseason. Give me Michael K and Joe Davis as the 1-2. And then honestly, I'm cool with Cone. I'm cool with Paul O'Neill with Michael K. And with Joe Davis, I don't know. I'm like A-Rod, I think would be a good one. I mean, I'm sure there are other color guys out there.
Well, Michael K does or I don't know if he still does it, but he did the thing with A-Rod with ESPN, right?
I mean, they should 100% do that again. 100%.
Okay.
I think there's
I have no idea if people liked it or not. I mean, I don't really consult other people on the broadcast because I feel like everyone complains about the broadcast. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like if you ask about Michael K, people tell you he stinks. You ask people about A-Rod and on the broadcast, they tell you he stinks. And then all the former people, right? Like people who used to be broadcasters, they just speak highly of them. They're like, oh, Vince Scully, which Vince Scully was the best, right? But then they'll say Joe Morgan and all these different people. It's like, why can't, where are all the people saying that they like broadcasters? Like, where did that go?
I know. Well, I mean, everyone hated on Joe Buck because they thought it was cool, but I actually miss Joe Buck calling postseason baseball games.
Right.
Like, I mean,
he's a little underrated. He was so hated that he became underrated.
Yeah. I mean, him and Tim McCarver, that was a good duo. I actually liked that. John Smoltz, he just hates the Yankees. So it's like, it's super, super biased. Anytime I'm watching Yankees baseball, it's like, I think he's good, but it's just clear he hasn't gotten over that World Series loss. You know what I mean? So it's like, I just would rather not hear that. And I mean, Eduardo Perez, I don't have to say anything there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I would go with A-Rod. I think I'd go with A-Rod and Michael K. And if I couldn't get Michael K, but I could get A-Rod, I'd go with Joe Davis. Because Joe Davis, he was doing the Dodgers for a while. I know he still does them to a degree because he does a lot for Fox, but he's one of those multi-sport guys, can do football as well. He's got that voice, man. Joe Davis is awesome. Like I'm looking forward to listening to him actually call games. Well, you know who's going to call games? Bob Costas, and everyone's going to complain again.
I think Bob Costas, I mean, I can't say he does a bad job. Bob Costas
he's a good, like he has that voice. It's just, yeah, it's different.
I think of the Olympics when I hear Bob Costas. I don't think postseason baseball. I mean, that's just me personally. I don't dislike him. I just heard someone all year in Michael K, and then all of a sudden I turn on postseason baseball, and then I heard something different. I feel like I should be able to have Michael K do the postseason. That's just all the way I feel about it. And if you don't like Michael K, well then too bad. Pick another team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there are plenty of guys out there. Matty V. I love Matt Vescursion.
Oh, he goes crazy.
Santa Maria.
And people get so mad. People send me like hate messages about it. They're like, can you believe that call? How unprofessional. I'm like, baseball is already considered boring. So
yeah, you know who exactly, they need that. You know who so he used to call Monday Night Football for a little bit and got so much shit for it. Joe Tessitore. That dude is amazing because he's a boxing announcer.
I have no idea who that is. No clue.
Dude, he's great. So I don't know if you ever played Fight Night, any of those Fight Night games. He was the announcer.
Okay.
That emphatic announcer. And he would just go nuts. Someone scores a touchdown and you'd be like, this is the first time he's ever seen a touchdown scored in his life. And I'm all for it, you know? But because it's funny, people will like, what's his face? Gus Johnson, you know, and love how he goes crazy. But then they'll not like a guy who does the same thing. And it's kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, it's not obviously priority number one on this channel, but we are fans of the game. And I think really what is important to say here, you know, before we get into the mailbags and wrap up the show, is that part of the game and part of the atmosphere, you know, as long as you're not actually at the game, part of this whole thing is a broadcast. Having the guys color, having the guys, you know, the play-by-play guys, having a good home run call, knowing when to pause and just like let the moment come in and then say something, not talk too much, not say things like, you know, something, what was it about? Oh yeah, Siri's not having a good night. And then he hits a walk-off home run. It's like, oh, this is not your night, Siri. Oh, and that one's hit deep. And it was like, I don't know what she was doing.
Oh yeah. Well, nobody knows what she didn't know what she was doing. We're obviously not going to say her name, but it was terrible.
Yeah. I had no idea, but yeah. So I guess really like the point is that to me, that's part of the experience. If I'm watching a telecast, that's part of the experience. And so I guess like there are times where the Yes Network has a game, but the game is actually scheduled for TBS. I don't see why we can't do that. Because I've seen that before where I watched it on Yes and then like Quick Pitch on MLB Network will literally be showing the TBS broadcast. And I'm like,
yeah, but I mean, that's what they're doing. They're essentially by paying for it. And you understand this.
Yeah.
If TBS buys it, they're essentially telling you, we paid for the right to tell Michael K to go to Eddie V's tonight for dinner. Go kick rock. You're off the broadcast. They get the right to just steal the whole broadcast, and then Michael K doesn't get a chance to be a part of it. They're essentially saying, yes, you may enjoy this better, but we're going to strip the whole rights of the game. And you may complain about it in the first inning or just before the game, but in the third inning, you're not going to be hearing Michael K. You're going to hear Fox or you're going to hear TBS, right? So like they're just, like I told you before, they pimp out those rights. They don't give a rip if you like this broadcaster or not. It's more about hearing, hey, welcome back to Apple TV's baseball game, right? It's more about just hearing Apple as though the advertisement matters, like as though we don't know about Apple. Everybody has an iPhone anyway, right?
I know, it's silly.
But they pay for that, right? They just
it's to get people to actually, it's to get people to actually use Apple TV Plus, which I do recommend, by the way. I think it's a great service, but I just don't love Apple TV baseball, if I'm being honest.
How many services do I have to buy? I don't have Apple TV. I've got Hulu, Netflix, right? You got all these different programs.
I have every single one.
I don't do any of it. I go right on Stream East and watch the game, and everyone's going, can you believe what just happened? And I'm watching the game 65 seconds before, after everybody else. That's how it goes. My phone alerts me when something happens, and then I get to watch it on the TV after that, because I essentially said, okay, well, we got rid of cable. It was too expensive. Now all of a sudden I've got to own 15 different streaming platforms. I'm sorry. I'm over it. I'm like already a 55-year-old man in a 30-year-old's body.
I mean, to be fair, I'm over like we recommend all these movies, and I feel like all these movies back in the day, I have to spend like $10 to rent, and I'm like, what? Why aren't they on Netflix? Why aren't they on Hulu? Why aren't they on Paramount Plus and all of those? I have every single one. I have every single one of them, and I will find so many movies. A lot of the Christopher Nolan movies are not on any of those. I had to
telling you guys, go to movies.123. It'll play right there for free. Some dude will hold his phone up in HD.
Oh my God, I'm not doing that.
And I'll watch the movie. I'll do it. I don't give a rip.
I don't care.
I don't care how much money I make. I'm not buying the movie.
Bro, that guy so all that ad revenue is going to his prosthetic arms. That's what you're telling me. Because this dude is not going to be able to hold. He is going to turn into one of those, I forget what the gimbals. He is going to turn in. He is a gimbal. That's what he is. It's so silly. But yeah, so thank you guys as always. Shout outs to our field level members: Juan Cepeda, Kid from LI, Carlos Marrero, Jeff J, Ed W, Brian Fuchs, Ryan Hoffman, Rich Squires, Joshua Halleckman, Egyptian Magician, Nick Gomes, Jalen Sestero, JT Roberts, and Mickey G. Appreciate you guys. And we got 2 mailbag questions to wrap up the show.
Fire it away.
So the first one, Jalen Sestero. I know we're in a super tight pennant race, yes. But with Soto and Judge both struggling, do you think they are feeling run down this late in the season? And do you consider giving one or both an extra day? I'll say this. They absolutely are feeling run down at the end of the season. They've played 140-something games. But you can't give them a day. The rest of the 16 games, the Yankees need to win all 16. Now, they'll find a way to get to the playoffs if they don't. But realistically, they should be trying to win every game the rest of the year. There should be no punt lineups. There should be no days given off. That's how I feel. Gary, what are your thoughts?
Has anyone ever worked at a place and you reach the end of the quarter and that's where you're getting judged, and all of a sudden somebody tells you, hey, the inspector's coming in this month, right? They're coming in sometime between Monday and Friday. You guys remember that ever happening? Did you ever get your day off during that week? You didn't, did you? Yeah, that's September baseball and October baseball for you. You don't get a day off, you're Juan Soto. He might get a day off tomorrow because he fouled the ball off his leg, and maybe that they're thinking that that's a reason to do it. But I'm here to tell you right now, I don't even consider it. I don't. I really don't.
Why would you? He hit a piss missile after that.
I don't even think about putting Juan Soto on the bench. I don't even think about putting Aaron Judge on the bench and giving him a reset day. Could it possibly be beneficial? It could be. But you think I want to find out by putting Aaron Judge on the bench for a day? Absolutely not. He's our best player. It's not even close. So, no. To answer your question, I understand why people would introduce the conversation.
I do too.
I don't understand why someone would deploy it.
That's a good way to put it. Thank you as always, Jalen. Appreciate the support and the enthusiasm in our mailbag. Juan Cepeda, with how this team is hitting or lack thereof, if they don't make it to the ALCS, does Hal clean house, or do you see Cashman and Boone speaking to reporters in spring training of 2025? I told you this. I'll say this again. Gary, I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, but I think Brian Cashman is a lock to return, and I think Boone gets fired. If they don't win the World Series, I think Boone gets fired. Straight up.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think Boone absolutely is in the crosshairs more for Hal Steinbrenner than
and I don't think that's fair. Let me make that very clear. I think if anything, Cashman deserves to be fired more. He's been here longer. Okay. But I know that they have that relationship, and I mean, it's probably like at this point, you and I, it's like me firing you. Like, I'm not doing that. So, like I guess I get it. It's tough. But I mean, Cashman, if they lose and they fall short of getting to that's another thing. If they get to the World Series, Boone stays, even if they lose. If they don't get to the World Series, he hasn't done anything to change any of his fortunes. So at that point, to me, that also signals that Brian Cashman didn't do enough at the deadline. If they lose, it's going to be probably because they didn't have a starting pitcher. They didn't have a closer. Like, whatever, you know? And so I think they both be guilty, but I don't think they would fire Brian Cashman. I think Brian Cashman is going to be there so long to the point where when he is done, he's going to just move into like a baseball ops role. Like he's not going to be like the main guy, but he'll just, you know, take a step down. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't love it because I'm not a huge Brian Cashman fan. But those are my thoughts, Gary. I'm just kind of over it, to be honest with you.
It's the same thing with the Cowboys. And it's the exact same thing with the Cowboys. Yeah. Everyone's wondering, is Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, is he really going to continue to make the decisions of what they do in the front office? And I'm here to tell you guys right now, if for whatever reason, the Cowboys, we're all sitting there eating queso, chips, and salsa, and we're watching the Dallas Cowboys represent, right, in the Super Bowl this year, I guarantee you guys, Jerry Jones dies before he stops being the X's and O's guy. Like before he's making decisions with what they're doing with players and free agency and all that via trade, contract negotiations. If they made it to a Super Bowl, it would never be undone. Same exact thing goes for Brian Cashman, right? Hal Steinbrenner is going to say, oh, the Yankees made it to the World Series. That's a success. Yes, they're going to say we want to win it when they get there, but we're not even calling for him to be fired, right? We're not calling for anyone to be fired. If they beat everybody in the American League, it's still technically a failure, but we'll take it given the context of what we've been through. The Yankees haven't gotten close. If they get close, you lose in game 6 or game 7 of a World Series. We can't live with it at the time, but am I calling for anyone's job you lost in game 7 of a World Series? Probably not.
No. And that's the thing. Like we have talked about, is it time to move on from Cashman and Boone? But being in September, that's not the time. That would be ridiculous. Way too much of a distraction. I don't care what you think about Boone. At this point, you know, we're going on to September 13th or September 12th. And let's just call it like it is. If you fired your manager September 12th and you're in first place in your division and you're one of the best teams in the league, it's not a good look. You know, now all of a sudden players in the clubhouse, it could get bad. So I think the time to do that would have been earlier on in the year, but you know, when they were going through that rough patch in July. But look, I think they're both going to be back. I think they're both going to be back if they make a World Series. I mean, I don't think Brian Cashman, there's no scenario where Brian Cashman gets fired. None.
Are the Yankees the Transformers franchise? It really just hit me. Are they going to reboot it? Well, we make a ton of profit. You guys keep coming back to watch it. We're just going to make explosions and all types of stuff, right? And Michael Bay. So maybe Michael Bay, right?
It's so weird when you say Michael Bay on a show where we always say Michael K.
Right. So maybe the producer, Michael Bay, who does Transformers, maybe he's just Brian Cashman. He just continues to throw the same explosions out at you guys. And we just keep looking at the pretty explosions. And by the end, you're left feeling unsatisfied and they're left rich.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I guess maybe I would compare them to the Last of Us franchise. Like, how many times are you going to just continue to remake? Oh yeah, we have another definitive edition. Oh, I mean, that's not very definitive, but you have like 5 definitive editions.
This is the best movie you've ever seen. You've never seen anything like it, and then it ends the exact same way you ever pictured.
You know the Last of Us series, right? Not the TV series,
I don't.
The games.
I don't watch it.
Yeah, so the games, they've literally made like the first game, part 1. I think they made a remaster because it came out on PS3, which you wouldn't even know because it's on PS5. So it came out on PS3. They did a remaster on PS4. They did a remaster on PS5. They did a remake on PS4. They did a remake on PS5. They did a definitive edition on PS4. They did a definitive edition on PS5. They did a deluxe edition or legendary edition or whatever the hell. They've been milking that. And then that's just the first part. The second part, they're now doing that. So yeah, they've been milking that franchise to all hell.
When did they start selling chicken buckets?
And they might as well be selling chicken buckets right now.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, it is your turn for the movie. So I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
So I came up with The Dark Knight. People were loving that, by the way. The Dark Knight, I know it was a safe pick, I'm sure. But I thought of it.
I do have the Venom shirt on.
I've never seen Venom.
Venom's a good movie. I like it. Venom 2, I can understand why people didn't like it. I still did. Woody Harrelson as Carnage was definitely something else. But where do we want to go? You also had another reference. There was one, I forget why it came up in my head, but I was thinking, you know what? Screw it. We're sticking with the comic book movies here. I'm going X-Men First Class. So good. Such a good movie. The X-Men series is very heavily scrutinized because the first X-Men film is great. X2 is really good. The Last Stand should be thrown in the nearest dumpster. But the X-Men, the First Class, is like basically a prequel to everything that happened. And it's like how like it, Charles Xavier ends up paralyzed and all that, like, because it literally goes all the way back to that point, and how Magneto became Magneto, and they have some crazy scenes in that movie. So definitely check. Oh, I know why. Now I know why you made me think of X-Men First Class.
Why?
Because when you were talking about him being adaptable, there's a character in that is this guy that, like, I forget what kind of character, like he just basically, he's like he adapts to everything, and like
he's like Kirby.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you play Super Smash Bros?
Yeah, no, I've played it before.
Right. And Kirby's the character where he sucks you in and then he takes your powers.
Yeah, I gotta look up this character because I know he basically adapts to, so it was Darwinism. It's obviously Darwin is the character in X-Men First Class. This film came out in 2011. It is one of my favorite comic book films. And he basically adapts to everything. And then Kevin Bacon as Sebastian Shaw puts a fucking lava thing in his mouth and kills him.
Kevin Bacon.
He looks up Kevin Bacon like, all right. You don't know who Kevin Bacon is?
I knew the name.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know who this is.
No, the cast is insane. It's Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult.
Kevin Bacon looks like a wrinkly Jim Carrey.
Kevin Bacon.
Wrinkly Jim Carrey.
I mean, Zoe Kravitz is in it. Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy. He's in that one that Speak No Evil.
Okay.
The one that's coming out or whatever, that's in theaters. So
yeah, I haven't seen any of this, but I know who Kevin Bacon is. Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to want to check out this movie. It's very good.
Okay.
It's one of the best comic book films I've watched. So yeah, if you made it to this point in time in the video or the podcast or whatever, X-Men First Class, X-Men : First Class. So
what's with you and the colons? Crazy.
I have OCD over that type of stuff.
Okay.
I'm just being honest.
Good. Cool. Well, like this video.